If there's one company I think is quite inconsistent with its movies, it would definitely be Dreamworks. Not saying they're a bad company, they certainly have some good films to their name, the obvious being How to Train Your Dragon, Kung Fu Panda, and of course, Shrek. Yet over the years, they've had somewhat of an inconsistent catalog of quality. Among the catalog I am looking at today is The Croods. Directed by Kirk DeMicco and Chris Sanders, the same guy responsible for Lilo and Stitch in the first How to Train Your Dragon film, The Croods is an animated comedy film released by Dreamworks on March 22, 2013. The Croods is one of those movies where the production is just as interesting as the movie itself. Originally, The Croods was going to be a stop-motion film by Aardman, the same guys behind Wallace and Gromit, as part of a 5-film deal with Dreamworks. Yet after Aardman departed in 2007, the film rights were handed over to Dreamworks. Aardman would eventually get their Caveman wish with Early Man, released in 2018. Then the movie turned into an adaptation of The Twits by Roald Dahl and back into an original film, which would have involved 2 cavemen on the run, an inventor, and a Luddite, which if you didn't know is a person opposed to new technology, according to my research at least. Finally, after 9 years in development hell, script rewrites, a title change from Crude Awakening to The Croods, and arduous delays, the movie was finally released on March 22, 2013, to mostly positive reviews, but one look at Rotten Tomatoes, many reviewers seemingly call this movie a hidden gem of sorts. Well, sorry to disappoint, but to be fair, this isn't the worst Dreamworks movie I've ever seen, but I just don't see what makes this movie that much of a classic. So why is that? In fact, why do people even remember The Croods? Or why don't people ever remember The Croods? Join me on this historical expedition because this is The Croods. So the movie opens up with narration by Eep Crood, member of the Croods family, a family of cavemen comprised of Eep, Father Grug, Mother Ugga, Brother Thunk, Grandma, and baby sister Sandy. Eep tells about her family life, living in the cave, finding food in the dangerous world, and following the rules of her father, as it'd never do anything fun. We then cut to morning as the Croods ready for their breakfast routine, traveling around the world, stealing eggs, eating breakfast, and going back to the cave. Eep is different from her family in that she wants to explore but can't because of the cowarding rules of her father, which are handprints splattered in blood. I kinda hope that's not blood. That would all change one day when she leaves the cave at night and meets the character with the best name in all of fiction. You will quiver in fear when you hear the name of Guy.
I'm Guy.
Guy?
That's the best name for a character ever. Guy.
Guy is a much more intelligent caveman who introduces Eep to fire, and his pet Belt, a sloth who does exactly what you think he does. It all wouldn't last, however, as Guy tells Eep about the end. He hands Eep a shell and walks off into the night, and Eep is caught by Grug. When she shows the family the shell, it gets destroyed. She throws a tantrum and it wouldn't last as the end begins. Little do the Croods realize that the end opens up to a completely new world inhabited by never-before-seen creatures. With the help of
Guy,
it's up to the Croods to get to a high mountain and escape the end, all while never not being afraid. So the opening of the movie is actually one of the best scenes in the film. It's adventurous and sets a feeling of wonder and curiosity. Then when the new world arrives, it becomes a family road trip movie and basically goes downhill from there. But how so? Well... So I'm not gonna lie, The Croods is pretty meh. But that doesn't mean there's anything I like about the movie. The animation is good. It's nothing too special, but the animation does what it needs done and it does it solid. But the environments are actually pretty good. Some of my favorites include the desert, the jungle, the coral canyon, the ocean, the crystal cave, and the end zone, which brings up some Shadow Moon Valley vibes. The story of The Croods is a generic family road trip story, but with cavemen. Like I said, the first 30 minutes are the best ones in the movie, but there's also one scene that I think single-handedly almost saves the film. The ending. But I'm gonna save that for later. One thing I do like about The Croods other than the environment is the world. With any caveman media, you're bound to see either a mammoth or a dinosaur, right? Well, The Croods actually went the extra mile by making the world inhabited by hybrids of already existing creatures, and this makes the world of The Croods more unique and distinctly alien. And some of these designs are pretty nice as well. Some of my favorite creature designs in the movie include the Giraffe, the Mecanivore, the Mouse-Elephant, the Owlbear, which is the most original looking owlbear I've seen in any media, the axolotl dog monkey thing, the ostrich piranha horse thing, and Douglas the croc dog. The score of the movie is also pretty good. It was composed by Alvin Silvestri, who has a pretty big background in film, composing the Back to the Future movies, the Avengers movies, Forrest Gump, and Sandra's previous work Lilo and Stitch. The soundtrack is orchestrated with a few tribal tunes here and there, and a lot of it is pretty unmemorable. Otherwise, the score does what it needs done, and I think it does it best in the first 30 minutes, bringing in the feelings of action, curiosity, and mystery, and it's pretty good. As for the comedy though, I'll keep this part short and sweet, the movie's not funny. I had a couple smiles here and there and even a loud chuckle on my second rewatch, but that's about it. The movie is not funny. The problem with the Croods comedy-wise is that it has less jokes and more slapstick, which can work if done right, and the slapstick of the Croods is not done right. It's basic juvenile slapstick that only a caveman would find funny, ironically. The one slight recurring gag I like is Grug hoping Grandma's dead. It's hysterical and even got a good chuckle out of me on my second rewatch. But other than the comedy, none of the characters are entertaining other than Thunk and Guy. None of the characters are also memorable, not even the Croods themselves, but I guess there's no good of a transition than that. Eep is the teenage daughter of the Croods who wishes to go out and explore and do new things, basically the opposite of Grug, and she sort of starts a romantic relationship with Guy. The movie also has this weird Amy Rose-like fixation on Eep, and by that I mean panty shot, panty shot, panty shot, kill me. I mean, even the original concept art for Eep suggests the designers were going a little too off on her, and someone is going off on her even as I speak. Ugh. Grug is the patriarch father of the Croods, the one in charge, and his rule set is to hide in fear. Grug is essentially the father who refuses to change and embrace the new, and at one point he tries to get Eep back, but he also goes through a bit of a redemption piece towards the end, and I will get to that later. Ugga is the mom. She's nothing that special to me, she's just there. She gets a new haircut in the middle of the movie, so that's something. Thunk is actually one of the most entertaining characters in the movie. He's the son following the footsteps of his dad and later discovers Douglas, and he's actually pretty funny.
Dad, I don't have a brain.
Grandma is the grandma. She's snarky and slightly entertaining, and that's about it. Sandy is the last member of the Croods family and is a very savage baby. Also, she looks like the long-lost ancestor to Lilo, not gonna lie. Finally, Guy is the smartest character in the film. He's the idea man and always comes up with ideas to help him and the Croods survive. And he comes with his trusty sidekick Belt the Sloth, who of course acts as his belt but also as a cook, conversationalist, and navigator. And his catchphrase is, I should mention that the movie doesn't really have a villain. It has the fearsome predators hunting the family, and I don't really count them as villains. Overall, a majority of the characters in the Croods aren't really entertaining, but hey, at least they have voice acting to boot. There are only 7 voice actors in the movie, and a majority of them are celebrities. Grug is voiced by Nicolas Cage, long before he took the mantle of Spider Noir in Into the Spider-Verse, and if you know Nicolas Cage, then that is basically all you'll hear out of Grug, but he does a little stoner impression in the middle of the movie, and is pretty hilarious.
Since I don't have a brain, they're coming from my stomach, down deep below, and then up again into my mind.
My favorite voices in the movie go to Thunk, voiced by Clark Duke, and voiced by the one and only Ryan Reynolds. Thunk has this sort of nerdy teen son voice, which I can't help but think enhances the character even more.
Eve's got a boy hog, Eve's got a boy. It's scared of the dark. Wait, we're scared of the dark.
Ryan Reynolds as Guy is another one of my favorite voices, with Reynolds' dry delivery making it all the more good.
I've seen it. It's coming this way. First, the ground is gonna shake. Then it breaks open. Everything falls in. Fire, lava. I don't mean to sound too dramatic, but believe me, everything we're standing on, all this right here, will be gone.
Otherwise, the rest of the cast is nothing that special to me, but they all do solid jobs. So overall, the content of the Croods is meh. Despite the pretty environments and fearsome inhabitants, the movie pretty much suffers from bland humor, boring plot, and slightly unentertaining characters. Now, why do I think the ending is good? Well, so throughout the film, Grug has become jealous of Guy, wooing his family with his inventions and tries to sabotage him, only for it all to of course fall flat. So Grug attempts to make his own ideas like a rug, a mobile home, shades, and a transliterator, and they also fall flat. Finally, after finding a cave, Grug has had enough and goes full caveman mode on Guy, only for them to get trapped in tar. Trapped in the tar, Grug and Guy have a small emotional talk about family and Guy's own family, and Guy offers Grug some helpful words to follow the light and make his way to tomorrow, and Grug finally embraces Guy's ingenuity. And so, with the help of Guy, they convince the Mecanivore to set them free and they head off to the mountain, only for the way to tomorrow to collapse. Grug finally gives in and admits that it's time for no more caves. He admits that while he may not have ideas, what he does have is his strength, and so he stops being afraid and tosses the family over to the other side, including Eep, but not before inventing the hug and saying he loves her. With everyone on the other side, the end comes, causing Grug to run and fall into the green-skied end zone. With no choice, he retreats back into a cave, and the movie has this emotional yet confusing moment to me as Grug paints his family on a wall, under his protection. It all won't last as he is cornered by the Mecanivore, who, much like Grug, is hiding from the outside. Grug has to find his way back to his family, and so after a bit of slapping and thinking, he finally has an idea. Using a giant ribcage covered in tar, as well as the attention of some piranha birds, Grug and the Mecanivore ride off to tomorrow, but not before rescuing Douglas, an axolotl dog monkey, and a twin-tailed bush baby. Suddenly, the vessel gets stuck and the end takes Grug. With no signal from Grug, the Croods mourn his loss by blowing into their shells at the edge of the cliff. Except he's not dead. Grug returns and Eep hugs him and says,
I love you too!
And so, he is reunited with his family, and makes a bigger family in the process. These last scenes are amazing, not only because they are emotional, but also because they single-handedly redeem Grug. In the movie, Grug was this overprotective patriarch douchebag who was so focused on keeping his family safe and banned anything new that he was afraid of just for the sake of safety. But in these scenes, Grug is on his own, and so dare I say it, he evolves into a better caveman by accepting the new and never being afraid. And I will say one flaw I don't like about these scenes is that the apology between Grug and Guy felt pretty forced and obligatory, like it was needed just for the sake of emotion. So after all that, the Croods finally discover the land of tomorrow. And so, the movie ends as it did in the beginning, with narration by Eep Crood and her new and improved family of the Croods. Now they have trusty gadgets, animal companions, and some new clothes. And so, the movie ends with our family riding off into the sunset. The end. So that's The Croods. The Croods is a very movie. It's not the worst Dreamworks movie I've ever seen. I'm looking at you, Home, but I've yet to rewatch Home to validate my opinion. The Croods has so much potential with its world building and nice environments, all buried by the boring generic story, bland humor, and generically unmemorable characters. It was announced that the Croods would be getting a sequel titled The Croods: A New Age. This will see the appearance of the Betterman family and the return of our beloved Croods. In fact, the sequel is why I'm even making this video in the first place. Judging by the trailer, it looks to be a sequel, yet it looks like it completely retcons the ending of the first movie. Like, whatever happened to the animals they had at the end of the movie other than Douglas and the Mecanivore? Why are they in their old clothes? Why does Ugga have her old hairstyle? And why does Douglas look different than how he did in the first movie? All these questions I'm sure won't be answered, but regardless, I have little hope for this movie. Considering all the animated films I've seen this year were mediocre at best, I have little hope for this movie being good, let alone being better than the first. But overall, that's my reason why nobody remembers the Croods. Like I said, it's far from terrible, but it's so meh. If you like this movie, well, fair enough, opinions are valid. This movie gets a big, fat Grug moment. Or in other words, a 6 out of 10. Sorry to disappoint.